After military reverses in Ladakh, another huge setback for China. India's tactically sensitive strategic move. Tibetan martyr given a hero's farewell with full military honors. Senior BJP leader Ram Madhav attends the Tibetan commando's funeral. Clearest signal to China. Is this a strategic shift in India's One China policy? A martyr, a funeral, a message. From Taiwan to Tibet, China's unending worries. Is India now playing the Tibet card? That's our top focus on India First. Is there a subtle but very clear shift in India's One China policy? First, Taiwan, where two BJP MPs attended the swearing-in ceremony of Taiwan's president, and now a senior BJP leader, Ram Madhav, attending the last rites of a Tibetan soldier who made the supreme sacrifice of his life, protecting Ladakh from Chinese transgression. But hear these chants of Bharat Mata ki Jai, Jai Tibet Desh and Jai Vikas. What's the signaling here, and is China getting that message? I'm Gaurav Sawant, action-packed 30 minutes lined up. Let's get started. Our top focus story on the broadcast is a big technology demonstration by India, and this is a very clear show of strength. The Defense Research and Development Organization today tested the hypersonic missile technology demonstrator. This happened off the Vila Island. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam test on site in Odisha at 11:03 hours, and with this test, India entered the elite club, only the fourth country in the world to use indigenous scramjet technology to develop a technology demonstrator or a hypersonic cruise missile. The United States, Russia and China so far have this technology. Look at these images. It's a major force multiplier for India. No country in the world at this point of time can counter a hypersonic cruise missile, which means a missile that travels at the speed 6 times the speed of sound. And for the 22nd of this flight test, the missile traveled, or the technology demonstrator vehicle traveled at the speed of 2 kilometers per second. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Shiv Arur for more on this. Shiv, this is a major show of strength when it comes to indigenous technology. Atmanirbhar Bharat, a hypersonic cruise missile in India's inventory. How long would that take from this technology demonstrator?
Extremely significant weapons technology test that's been achieved by India's Defense Research and Development Organization, especially since a similar test in June last year didn't actually go quite as planned. In fact, the vehicle failed to separate from the ballistic carrier. But in this case, everything apparently went really well. There is a short clip that's been put out as well. The team has received congratulations from the Prime Minister. And the next phase is to prove this particular scramjet technology, allowing this system to be, flying at speeds in excess of 5.5 to 6 times the speed of sound. So these are truly new generation futuristic weapons that can evade all manner of, surface-to-air missiles and surface-to-air weaponry. They're that fast. And therefore, a hypersonic cruise missile, a hypersonic vehicle of some kind could be the end game once these technologies are proven. So massive success for the Indian weapons complex.
Oh, absolutely, Shiv. This is massive. 6 times the speed of sound, 20-second flight, 2 seconds per kilometer. 2 kilometers per second. But what's extremely significant, we are being told that perhaps in the next 5 years, we will have a hypersonic cruise missile. And then the adversary would think 10 times before messing around with us. Of course, we have weapons in our country that the enemy would still think. So the gun is important, but the man behind the gun is more important. And here we are now talking about the brave Tibetan soldiers fighting shoulder to shoulder with the Indian Army. And one brave such soldier was given a final farewell, a befitting farewell that a martyr deserves in Ladakh.
India bid farewell to its hero, a Tibetan warrior, Subedar Nyima Tenzin of the Special Frontier Force. Tenzin was killed in action on the south bank of the Pangong Tso on August the 30th. But not before helping the Indian forces capture the strategic black top and helmet top and repelling a Chinese hostile action.
Bharat Mata ki Jai! Bharat Mata ki Jai! Bharat Mata ki Jai! Vikas Regiment!
With chants of Bharat Mata ki Jai and Jai Tibet, hundreds of locals and the Tibetan community attended the warriors' last rites.
We salute Tibetan martyrs! We salute!
The coffin was wrapped in both the tricolour and the Tibetan flag. Proud of their Tibetan and Indian identities, those attending the funeral hummed songs of Tibetan nationalism and also India's national anthem. Posters at the funeral site hailed the Jawan as a hero for not just Tibetans but all of India, and one who lived for the love of Tibet and died for the love of India. Many joined in the funeral procession on their motorcycles and vehicles, waving the tricolour and the Tibetan flag. Several others walked to the cremation site. Following the protocol for those killed in action, army troops neatly folded the two flags and handed them over to Tenzin's wife. The event perhaps marked the very first public funeral for a soldier of India's super-secret Special Frontier Force, also called the Vikas Regiment.
It's not that India is forcing them to do, no. We are gladly doing this for India, and this is our responsibility. This is our second home, and we are, doing anything to save our second home from this dirty PLA intrusion.
The Braveheart was given a guard of honor, and officials from the army and civil administration laid wreaths. The BJP's National General Secretary Ram Madhav was also in attendance. It was a moment of pride for several Tibetans settled in India.
It is a very proud moment for all of us, for saying goodbye to him, for what he has done for all of us. Like, he is the martyr for all Tibetan as well as India.
The army has not officially put out details of what led to Tenzin's death, but sources said he stepped on a landmine. The Indian Army's message to China amidst an all-out standoff is loud and clear. The country won't shy away from acknowledging its braves who helped tame the dragon.
He lived for Tibet, died for India. This slogan sums up the life of Tenzin Nyima, who sacrificed his life recently. His sacrifice means a lot to the Tibetan community that has been continuing their struggle for years now. It also means a lot to all of India and also to the Indian Army that is taking on the Chinese belligerents at the borders for the last 4 months. With camera person Satya and Bakir Cho, in Leh, Abhishek Bhalla for India Today.
He lived for Tibet, he died for India. And will this supreme sacrifice go a long way in creating awareness about the cause of Tibet, not just in India, but across the Tibetan community, across the world? And is government of India also sending out a very clear signal? Senior BJP leader Ram Madhav attended the last rites of Nirma Tenzin. What signal does that send? Especially when Ram Madhav said that he expects peace at the India-Tibet border.
As a grateful nation bid farewell to the brave commando Nirma Tenzin, a company leader of Tibetan origin in India's elite Special Frontier Force, the Tibetan snow lion flag draped his mortal remains along with the Indian tricolour. Hundreds of Tibetan refugees in India and grateful Indians accompanied the truck as Tenzin's mortal remains were consigned to the flames in Leh. Senior BJP leader Ram Madhav paid tribute to the fallen soldier and met his family. He even tweeted to say, attended the funeral of SFF company leader Nirma Tenzin, a Tibetan who laid down his life protecting our borders in Ladakh. Let the sacrifices of such valiant soldiers bring peace along the Indo-Tibetan border. Though Ram Madhav later deleted the tweet, was his presence at the cremation meant to send out a powerful signal to China?
BJP General Secretary Ram Madhav's presence at the funeral ceremonies for the SFF officer is a mark of respect by the BJP for the contributions of the officer and the SFF. In fact, the highest contribution possible in the battle with China at Chushu.
Is India now ready to play the Tibet card, shedding its traditional hesitation and desire to avoid angering China? India has trained Tibetan origin fighters into a super-secret force called Establishment 22 and deployed them both in then East Pakistan in 1971 and Kargil in 1999. The hardy troops from Tibet have proved their mettle in combat. Deploying them at the line of actual control sends out a bigger political message to China in particular and the world in general.
Well, I would not say that there is a shift in India's policy towards Taiwan or towards Tibet. These are momentous decisions with huge ramifications, and India's stated aim at the moment is to ensure that the two sides, India and China, should continue their discussions, including through diplomatic and military channels, to ensure complete disengagement and de-escalation and full restoration of peace and tranquility along the line of actual control at the earliest.
हम सभी को मिलकर ही तो
The Narendra Modi government has also sent two BJP members of parliament, Meenakshi Lekhi and Rahul Kaswan, to the swearing-in ceremony of Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen in May 2020, a move that had angered Beijing. In the strategic community, it is being hotly debated if the Modi government is now doing a strategic course correction on the One China policy, with subtle hints being sent out to China on Tibet and Taiwan.
From Ram Madhav at Leh to Meenakshi Lekhi at the virtual swearing-in ceremony of the President of Taiwan in May, India appears to be sending a subtle but clear message to Beijing that the One China policy is not carved in stone. With Indian Army occupying crucial heights at the line of actual control to the government banning a number of Chinese apps, the message is clear. Chinese transgressions at the line of actual control are completely unacceptable to India. With Abhishek Bhalla in Leh and Kripal Singh in Delhi, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. Joining me now on the broadcast is India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan. Also with us is Ambassador Vishnu Prakash and General Gigi Dwivedi, an expert who served on ground zero in Pengong So and the Chushul sector. Geeta, to you first. Does this mark a shift in India's One China policy?
Well, it does mark a huge move towards how India wants to interact and engage with China. A few of the diplomats that I've been speaking with said that there always was consistency when it comes to India's Tibet policy. But over here, what India was doing in the past was taking into consideration Chinese sensitivities. Gaurav, with what China has done recently, with how China now shows its policy is going to be moving forward from here on, it is very clear that India needn't now continue to care about Chinese sensitivities. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar was in an interaction just a while ago where he said that we've been consistent with our policy, and even as he interacts with Wang Yi in Moscow, he is going to tell the Chinese foreign minister that tensions at the border and continuity in other areas do not go hand in hand. There has to be peace at the border for all other areas to work between India and China.
Fair enough. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, how do you see this development? One, Ram Madhav at the funeral of a Tibetan soldier of Establishment 2 in Leh. Also the fact that Meenakshi Lekhi and Rahul Keswan were there at the inauguration of the President of Taiwan some months ago.
Gaurav, two aspects. One, Mr. Ram Madhav's presence signified that India knows how to mourn, how to celebrate the supreme sacrifice of their martyrs. What Subedar Tenzing did was something that is reflective of India's multiculturalism, the pride that the Tibetan community have in India and Tibet. So that is very much the case. Now, when it comes to the policy, it is always based on reciprocity. It's said that it takes two to tango. We have hitherto maintained a one China policy, but I also recall External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj saying that one China policy is contingent, or something to that effect, on one India policy. I'm not saying that we are changing the policy overnight. There are ground realities. We are taking calibrated steps. But it is certainly important for our neighbor to understand that if they have core concerns, so do we. And two can play the same game. We do not want to, but certainly they have it their way.
Very good. So we're looking the dragon in the eye and sending out a strong message. You don't accept Arunachal Pradesh as a part of India, as the Chinese spokesperson said. Well, then Taiwan and Tibet are game on as far as India is concerned. But General Dwivedi, there's another message that goes out. China still hasn't acknowledged the killing of more than 40, 40 soldiers of the Chinese army being injured. Not only were 20 braves of the Indian army cremated with full state honors, with full military honors, the same happens with the Tibetan soldier of the Indian army. Will this impact the PLA soldiers?
Well, Gaurav, firstly, always a pleasure to be on a show. I think as a nation, anyone who volunteers to sacrifice his or her life for our country, I think our country is indebted and owes that kind of reverence and that kind of honor, which we have given and made a very clear statement that India honors its martyrs, India honors those who make sacrifice irrespective of the caste, creed, religion, because we are a secular country, and anyone who is bona fide citizen of India, will be given the same honor, no matter what his origin is. Having stated that, now we come to the point why Chinese have not recognized their deads or their casualties. I have been in China as defense attaché, so I also know fair amount of what goes on inside. You know that Chinese have no independent media, everything is state controlled. And it is evident that Chinese at Galwan, having served in the areas for a long time, have suffered, I think, colossal amount of casualties, and they didn't have either the heart or the conscience or the conviction to accept that, because this would directly reflect on Mr. Xi Jinping, who is the commander of People Liberation Army. So therefore, it's quite expected out of a nation which has absolute, translucent society. There's no transparency. Media is totally state-controlled, and these are the signals.
In fact, there are some reports that seem to indicate that Xi Jinping is also extremely angry with commanders on ground, General. Let me also bring in Ambassador. Yes, sir. I also want to bring in Ambassador Vishnu Prakash once again for that very important aspect on China today said it does not accept Arunachal Pradesh. It sees it as South Tibet. Should we then stop seeing Taiwan and Tibet as a part of China? As you rightly pointed out, Sushma Swaraj said this to Wang Yi in 2014, but we haven't implemented it. Has our Tibet policy, seen a series of flip-flops, 60th anniversary of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama coming to India? Ambassador, we didn't even celebrate his coming to India or his being in India. We were quite mum about it. Should we have one policy now and a very firm one at that, sir?
Gaurav, nothing is written in stone, and you said it earlier yourself. India is a responsible power. We take calibrated steps. And which have to be weighed carefully. Now, I would like very briefly to go back to 1951 when China invaded Tibet, and according to the records, Prime Minister Nehru was advised to consult Britain. And even in 1951, I'm not defending anything, I'm just stating a fact. 1951, when China was a weak power, Britain said that recognizing Tibetan independence must be ruled out. Now, there are certain ground realities. We should pick up our battles carefully. We are signaling. But at the same time, just as Arunachal will remain India's a part of India, Kashmir will remain a part of India, there are certain realities. But yes, it is not a carte blanche that we are giving them any longer. We are saying that look, it takes two to tango, and two can play the same game.
Fair enough. General Dwivedi, in your appreciation, the steps that India has taken, and since you've been DA, the defense attaché in Beijing, the fact that apps were banned, we've deployed our troops even at Blacktop, and you've served in that area in Chushul, the other measures that India is taking, collectively, what message does it send to Xi Jinping? In your appreciation, will China now pull back or escalate further?
Well, Gaurav, Chinese have a very clear stated strategic culture, where they always, bully the weak, and when they face a strong, they are very flexible and they can always negotiate. Now, that is the Chinese strategic culture. Chinese believe in use of force, which is always legitimate, and they have used it more than a dozen times since 1949 Communist Revolution. So the point I like to make is that we need to stand up to China. My observations and my perceptions are that so far we have been giving, yielding ground. At times we have been resorting to appeasement, and we have not shown a firm resolve to Chinese that we mean business. I think time has come, and we need to take calibrated steps. And
are we doing that now, General?
They don't change overnight. There is a shift that takes place, and these small shifts ultimately add on to a national policy. So I'd like to make one very clear statement against China.
Fair enough. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, I have last 30 seconds on the broadcast. Should we focus more on Taiwan? Is that expected to rile China much more than what happens with Tibet?
Gaurav, we should be guided by our national interests. That is the name of the game. Taiwan is an important economic player. It's an important player. It is in our national interest to deepen our engagement with Taiwan, economically in particular, and I would even recommend that we should consider a free trade agreement with Taiwan.
Fair enough. I will let that be the last word on the broadcast. General Dwivedi, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash and Geeta Mohan, many thanks for joining me. We tracked the story very closely. And once again, a heartfelt tribute to the brave Tibetan soldier, Subedar Nyama Tenzin, for making the supreme sacrifice for India. He lived for Tibet, he died for India, and we are ever so grateful.
We salute! We salute! भारत माता की भारत माता की
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.